Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in every leader's life where it's not the victories that define them, but the weight they're willing to carry. When life gets heavy, when the pressure rises, when nothing makes sense and everything feels like it's closing in. That's not the moment to run, that's the moment to rise, because true leadership isn't about leading when it's easy, it's about standing tall when it's hard. It's about showing up with strength when everyone else is losing theirs. It's about becoming the anchor in the storm, the calm in the chaos, the example that says, if I can carry this, so can you. Today, we're not just talking about leadership, we're talking about resilience, about courage, about the fire that refuses to go out when life turns up the heat. Let's begin. Leaders don't run from stress. They lean into it with purpose. In fact, the difference between someone who simply manages and someone who truly leads is how they respond when the pressure is on. Stress isn't foreign to a leader, it's part of the terrain, but instead of viewing it as a threat, a real leader sees it as a signal, an invitation to rise, adapt, and lead with greater intention. When stress shows up, it exposes what's beneath the surface. It strips away the pretense, the performance, the polished exterior. It reveals where the cracks are. And while some people run from that discomfort, leaders know that facing it is where the real work and the real growth begins. They don't run because they understand that stress, though uncomfortable, is also a clarifier. It shows you what matters most. It pushes you to focus. It demands you reconnect to your why. Rather than seeing stress as something to escape, leaders view it as something to engage. They ask, what is this trying to teach me? Or how can I grow through this? They turn stress into fuel by aligning it with purpose. That's the difference. When you're rooted in purpose, pressure doesn't crush you. It refines you. It sharpens your focus, strengthens your resilience, and calls you to rise to another level. Leaning into stress doesn't mean ignoring the pain or pretending it's easy. It means having the courage to walk into it with your eyes wide open. It means embracing the tension between where you are and where you're being called to go. Leaders feel the weight, but they don't fold. They carry it differently. They process it with intentionality. They breathe through the pressure and stay present enough to respond rather than react. This kind of leadership is not passive, it's powerful. Because when others panic, a leader plants their feet. When others scatter, a leader becomes still. That doesn't come from training alone. It comes from choosing again and again to show up in the middle of the fire, to find clarity in the noise, and to keep moving forward even when nothing feels certain. Stress will always come, there's no way to lead without it, but the ones who rise are those who stop resisting it and start transforming it. They don't waste time blaming the situation or waiting for it to pass. They get to work. They speak calm into chaos. They turn pressure into presence. And through that steady, grounded posture, they inspire others to do the same. They lean in not because they enjoy the pain, but because they understand the purpose. They know that every season of stress is preparing them for a greater season of strength. So instead of running, they press forward, with intention, with courage, and with a fire that stress cannot extinguish. True leadership means creating clarity in chaos, not waiting for calm. Anyone can lead when the skies are clear and the waters are still, but when the storm hits, when everything feels uncertain, when emotions run high, when plans fall apart, that's when real leaders emerge. It's not about holding a title or giving orders. It's about bringing vision, focus, and strength when everything else feels unstable. Chaos has a way of clouding judgment. It multiplies distractions, breeds fear, and tempts people to freeze or panic. In those moments, people don't need more noise. They need someone who can see through it. They need someone who can rise above the swirl of confusion and say, this is where we're going, this is who we are, and this is how we'll get through it. That's clarity. And clarity doesn't come by chance, it comes by choice. Leaders choose clarity when others choose confusion. They refuse to be swept away by emotion or overwhelmed by what they cannot control. Instead, they anchor themselves in what matters. They ask better questions. They quiet the noise within so they can cut through the noise around. They don't wait for everything to settle down to act. They create stillness in the middle of the storm. That stillness isn't passivity, it's poise, it's a controlled presence, it's power under pressure. Creating clarity in chaos starts with self-leadership. You can't bring order to others if your inner world is in turmoil. That's why true leaders take the time to ground themselves. They breathe, they reflect, they reset. And from that centered place, they lead others with wisdom instead of worry. They communicate with conviction, not panic. They cast vision instead of echoing fear. Clarity isn't about having all the answers. It's about being honest about the situation and bold about the direction. It's about removing the fog so people can take the next step. A good leader doesn't promise perfection. They provide perspective. They remind others of the mission. They help others refocus on what they can do, even when the world feels out of control. When others are paralyzed by chaos, true leaders move. They make decisions, they take ownership, they don't avoid the mess. They step into it with the intention to bring order, hope, and forward momentum. They keep people aligned, not by demanding perfection, but by modeling clarity. And that clarity becomes contagious. People don't follow perfection. They follow presence. They follow clarity. They follow someone who can see beyond the chaos and point to a better future. That is what makes leadership transformative. Because in moments when others lose direction, the one who sees clearly becomes the one who leads. And it's that clarity, born in chaos, not calm, that defines a true leader. When pressure rises and life feels like it's closing in, it's easy to lose your center. The mind races, emotions heighten, and the urge to react quickly can override wisdom. But true strength under pressure isn't found in force. It's found in anchoring yourself to values that don't shake when the storm hits. Vision, service, gratitude, and stillness are those anchors. They don't eliminate pressure, but they stabilize you in it. They remind you of who you are when everything around you tries to make you forget. Vision is your internal compass. It's the clear picture of where you're going, even when the road gets messy. In moments of stress, you must reconnect to your why. Without vision, you drift. You react to problems instead of responding with purpose. But when you anchor to vision, you don't let temporary pain derail long-term purpose. You stop focusing on what's urgent and start focusing on what's important. You begin to lead, think, and act from a higher place. Service is the second anchor. When pressure builds, the natural instinct is to turn inward, to protect yourself, your time, your energy. But leadership is not about self-preservation, it's about self-giving. Anchoring yourself in service shifts the energy. It pulls you out of survival mode and into impact mode. When you ask, "Who can I help?" or "How can I show up for others in this moment?" the weight doesn't disappear, but it becomes lighter. You find strength you didn't know you had, not because you were focused on yourself, but because your heart was focused on something bigger. Gratitude is the third anchor, and perhaps the most underestimated. Gratitude doesn't mean denying the challenge, it means refusing to let it define you. When everything feels like it's falling apart, gratitude grounds you in what remains. It shifts your state from scarcity to abundance, from fear to faith. Even in high-pressure situations, there is always something to be thankful for: a lesson, an opportunity, a second chance, a breath. Gratitude isn't weakness, it's strength in disguise. It calms the mind and elevates your perspective so you can see clearly and act wisely. Stillness is the final anchor. When life moves fast, leaders learn to slow down internally. Stillness is not inaction, it's intentional awareness. It's the space where clarity speaks and ego is silenced. In the stillness, you remember that rushing doesn't create results. Wisdom does. When you pause, you regain your power. You make decisions from clarity, not chaos. You speak from peace, not panic. And in that space of stillness, you hear the quiet wisdom that pressure tries to drown out. When anchored in vision, you stay aligned. When anchored in service, you stay outward, focused. When anchored in gratitude, you stay joyful. And when anchored in stillness, you stay wise. These anchors don't eliminate pressure, but they empower you to stand tall in it, respond powerfully through it, and grow stronger because of it. Pressure is not punishment, it's preparation for greater purpose. It's easy to misinterpret the weight we carry as something meant to break us, to bury us, or to hold us back. But pressure has never been the enemy. In fact, pressure is often the process that prepares you for what you asked for. Every great calling comes with great stretching. And the moments that feel most overwhelming are often the very moments shaping you into the person you need to become in order to handle the next level of your assignment. We live in a world that tries to avoid pressure at all costs. We label it as stress, as discomfort, as something to escape. But growth doesn't happen in escape. Growth happens in exposure. And pressure exposes the gaps, the weaknesses, and the places in you that still need refining. Not to humiliate you, but to prepare you. You don't become stronger by avoiding resistance. You become stronger by learning how to stand in it and move through it. Just like muscles are built through tension, character is built through pressure. It's in those hard places, when things don't go your way, when doors don't open, when people don't show up, that your endurance is developed. And endurance is not weakness, it's quiet strength. It's the inner grit that keeps you moving when most people would stop. That grit isn't built in celebration, it's built in pressure, the kind that stretches your faith, expands your capacity, and redefines your limits. Pressure is also a revealer. It shows you what you truly believe. It brings to light what you've built your identity on, and sometimes that revelation is painful. Sometimes pressure reveals that we've been leaning on the approval of others, or that our confidence was rooted in comfort. But that revelation is a gift, because only when something is exposed can it be healed, rebuilt, and fortified for the future. Purpose doesn't arrive fully packaged, it's formed in the fire, and the fire is hot. It's uncomfortable, it brings tears, but it also brings clarity. Pressure has a way of stripping away what doesn't serve your future. It burns away the fluff, the distractions, the excuses, and leaves you with what's real, your resilience, your conviction, your calling. It teaches you to lean not on what's external, but on what's eternal. You weren't made to live a small, soft life. You were made for impact, but impact requires preparation, and preparation is never passive. It's hands-on, it's personal, and yes, it often comes wrapped in pressure, so the next time you feel the weight pressing down, don't curse it, recognize it. It's not punishment, it's proof that something greater is being formed. The pressure is the molding, it's the shaping, it's the preparation for the kind of purpose that won't just change your life, but the lives of everyone connected to your destiny. Real leaders inspire by how they stand strong when everything feels heavy. It's not their charisma, their confidence, or even their communication that leaves the deepest impact. It's their presence in the middle of pressure. When the weight increases, when the walls feel like they're closing in, when everything seems uncertain, real leaders don't run, collapse, or fade into the background. They show up. They stay planted. And that quiet strength sends a message louder than any speech ever could. We're going to make it through this. There's something powerful about a person who remains steady in the storm. People are drawn not to perfection, but to presence. In moments of chaos, they aren't looking for someone with all the answers. They're looking for someone who refuses to be shaken. Real leaders don't always have the solution, but they carry stability, and that stability gives others the courage to keep going. When life feels heavy, most people panic. They give in to fear, anxiety, and self-doubt. But real leaders have trained themselves to rise in those exact moments. They've been through enough adversity to know that pressure is temporary, but how you show up in it can have a permanent impact. They don't deny the struggle, they carry it with grace. They don't pretend everything is fine. They face the truth without surrendering to despair. That honesty, mixed with resilience, becomes a beacon for everyone watching. What makes a leader's strength so inspiring is not that they never bend, it's that they don't break. They feel the same weight everyone else feels. They carry the same burden, face the same fears, and walk through the same uncertainty. But what separates them is how they choose to respond. They dig deeper. They remind themselves of who they are. They anchor themselves to purpose, not pressure. Standing strong doesn't mean never feeling weak. It means refusing to let that weakness define your leadership. It's the decision to keep showing up, to keep serving, to keep encouraging, even when you're running on empty. And that vulnerability, that quiet courage, makes others believe they can do the same. Because when people see you endure, they start to believe they can too. Real leadership is about more than direction. It's about demonstration. It's how you carry the load, how you speak hope when everyone else speaks fear, how you take the next step when others are ready to quit. You don't need a platform to lead. You need presence. You don't need a crowd. You need conviction. And when you stand firm in heavy moments, you create space for others to rise too. That's what inspires people. Not how high you stand when things are easy, but how grounded you remain when everything around you feels like it's falling apart. It's in those moments of heaviness, when everything is pressing in, that your leadership leaves its deepest mark. Because anyone can lead in the light, but it takes something real to lead in the dark. So if you're feeling the weight today, if life feels heavy and uncertain, remember this: your strength isn't found in how loud you speak or how perfect you appear. It's found in how you stand, with courage, with calm, and with conviction. When everything around you tries to shake you, real leadership isn't proven when it's easy. It's revealed when it's hard. And every moment you choose to stay grounded, to keep showing up, to lead with heart even while carrying the weight, you are making an impact far greater than you realize. You are the steady hand someone else is looking to. You are the calm in someone else's storm. You are the proof that it's possible to stand strong, even when it's heavy. Thank you for being that kind of leader. The world needs your strength. Keep rising. Keep leading. Keep believing, because you're not just carrying weight. You're carrying purpose.